Welcome to Growth Gatherings, where we share inspiring leadership stories from Pakistan and beyond. Today's episode is a powerful story of transition. Our guest has shown us that if you have courage and passion, you can move out of a corporate job and start something of your own. Let me introduce our guest, Saad Usmani, the co founder and CEO of GiftKarte Technologies. Let's hear his story. Welcome, Saad. Welcome to Growth Gatherings.
Thank you. Thank you for having me over.
Okay, tell us honestly, was it a midlife crisis? Why did you leave banking and started GiftKarte?
Uh, for the last 10, 12 years of my career, I've been wanting to do something of my own. So I think it was more about that. I want to do something of my own. Was tired of the rat race, creating something of my own. And to be honest, again, my career had really plateaued. So it wasn't exciting anymore. It was just like, doing it for the money and some amount of boredom had kicked in really. And so so the two sides of it, you wanting to do something of my own, and then career and the work really becoming boring. You probably made me think of taking essentially
Okay.
going ahead and doing something.
Okay. So was banking your first love or this?
No, I stumbled into banking. I had a very traditional sort of. I mean, I'm from that generation where it was a very traditional thought. You work hard, get into a good college, good uni, get passed with a decent amount of grades, get into a corporate job, get married, have children, buy a house, and die eventually. That's the standard format the kind of life
Yeah.
I actually started off with. So I did not even think of ever in the first of doing something on my own. So I was following that. I started off, got into IBA, got into, looked for a job. My first job was with an oil company, was with Caltex.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I realized I'm a finance guy. This is not really working out. So then I'm going to banking. And yeah, and then once you get into banking, then actually it's quite an exciting field. And I started enjoying it. So yeah, banking was, and then I started loving it. So then I would see myself as a banker and nothing else really. So that went on for a good 15, 20 years of my life.
And primarily in the GCC.
Yeah, yeah. So again, completely unplanned. It was not something which I had strategized about. I just got into a bank which basically sent me on a training course in Dubai, and they said, "Why don't you?" They offered me a role there, and I kind of stayed over. And then so I stayed there for about 20 odd years in the Middle East. The work was exciting. The work was a little more with a lot more exposure. The money was good. So I think they just kept me in it. So it wasn't very well structured, planned, to be honest. But I just
It just
ended up
worked
in.
out.
Yeah, yeah. And there was no. I didn't have a banking. Family banking background
Correct.
as such. My father was an aviation guy, was an airline guy. My siblings were not into banking, but I just somehow got into it and really excited, and found it really exciting.
Okay, before we move on to GiftKarte, uh, let's stay with banking because banking has also evolved. And I know you're not, obviously, you're not working for a bank at the moment, but uh, people who are pursuing their career in banking, what advice would you give them that they continue to do well in that field?
I think banking is a very exciting field, and it is evolving as well, and it is evolving quite quickly now, especially with all these fintechs coming into the space. So I think as somebody who's uh, either pursuing a career in banking or wants to, he needs to up his game a bit and get in and understand how it is evolving. So the fintech arena, I think that's something that one needs to understand and needs to adapt to it, needs to accept it rather than going after the same more traditional methods. Because while there are some fintechs, a lot of banks are also evolving the same way of doing it. The whole trade system is now blockchain driven. That's where the next how banking is moving. So I think the whole AI feature that is coming into the play. I think somebody who wants to pursue banking has to have an interest in the new technology because that is really changing the landscape.
Okay. So you mentioned that you wanted to switch and start your entrepreneurial journey because you wanted to set up something of your own. Now, I'll be honest, a lot of people have this desire,
Yeah.
right? And they even start, but some of them somehow they can't pursue. You 5, 6 years later, you're doing really well. Your company is doing really well. Was this always the idea about GiftKarte, which is gifting? Was it always the original idea, or there was an evolution when you started out?
Uh, no, I think the first was the primary idea was to do something on my own. It was not what, but it was something on my own. I actually toyed with few ideas,
Hmm.
so there are the areas that I looked at, and so there were two things which were certain, which was one, I want to do something on my own. B, I wanted something on my own in Pakistan, because I felt that Pakistan is very, very inefficient.
Hmm.
It requires change,
Hmm.
and I think there are needs. So you could, everywhere you look and you see that's an area that that's a problem that I can solve, put it
Hmm.
like that. So I toyed with two, three ideas, and then I and I remember I still was working in a bank, and I actually would come down here and talk to people and figure it out, okay, and try to make sense, okay, what will work and what
Hmm.
would not work. And then I stumbled upon and gift cards, the whole gifting. There was a personal element to it. I can say it with some amount of humility. I like gifting. I'm a generous
Hmm.
gifter. I have my siblings living here, my
Hmm.
relatives living here. So I enjoy. I find it therapeutic for me. So
Hmm.
selfish interests.
Hmm.
So I find it therapeutic, and I do that. And from living away out of Pakistan, it was always a problem,
Yeah.
always a problem, because you have occasions where you can't gift, and when you try to give, it's cumbersome, it's costly, it
Yeah.
is an enormous amount of value erosion. So I realized that this is a pain that I feel every time, maybe 10 times a year.
Hmm.
And this is a pain that pretty much everybody is
Hmm.
facing. And then again, there's a whole lot of how do you call it, internal mobility also happening in
Yeah. The
Pakistan.
logistics of sort of.
Yeah, no,
Huh.
no, no. Even Pakistan, for example, you have people who are living in Karachi, wala people living in Lahore, and Lahore wala people living in
Huh.
Islamabad,
Huh.
and there is a whole lot of, and the whole traffic mess that is happening.
Huh.
So I thought there is a need of that market, and then I looked around, to be honest, okay, what
Huh.
else is happening in
Huh.
Pakistan, and then you realize they are very old, very traditional way of it happening. So then basically this idea started evolving. I met people here in the market before I jumped into it, and I said, okay, fine, this probably can work, but it was never a certain game.
But Saad, one thing, um, when you move from a corporate, or anyone who wants to move from a corporate job, it is very cushy, right? There's some kind of preparation that is needed. Idea you mentioned, ठीक है, we can all find the gaps and say कि चलो इस problem पे काम करते हैं. But what about mental and financial preparation?
Yeah, I mean there was a lot of obviously it was a financial hit.
Hmm.
So what was important for me to is to prep my family, I guess.
Hmm.
So that was the thing. But I worked. I've been very blessed, alhamdulillah. So so I had what I worked out. Okay, I made investments. What kind of income will I be
Hmm.
getting? So I worked out those things. So that there was a lot of Excel work that went into before I really jumped into it, both in terms of because I was investing my own capital along with my partner. I think that one element I also want to mention, I found somebody who was like-minded, who I've known for
Yeah.
20, 30 years, who was going through similar emotion. Probably I kind of nudged him towards the same goal, as well as towards and convinced him to take this plunge with me. But I think so. There was one element of it was financial preparation, and I did quite a bit of
Hmm.
that. Then the other element of it was, and obviously there was a expected pain
Hmm.
associated with it, was to prep my children and family. And I think I actually sat down with them. You would be surprised that I actually sat down with my children and I said, okay, this is what I want to do. This this is how it will impact your life. There will be some impact, not a major impact, but some impact,
Some lifestyle impact.
some lifestyle impact. And but I assured them that these are the basics of things will be sorted. And alhamdulillah, my children who are good at teenage years those time, They were very, very supportive, and they were like, if you want to do it, do it. Go ahead and plunge it. What you're talking about is not so important. So I think I prepped myself with that. Of course, things were a lot different after that. A lot of things happened, but so I prepared myself both in terms of financial aspects. So you see, you can be an entrepreneur. This I say to a lot of people for that new entrepreneur. You can be an entrepreneur at the very early stage of your life when you have very low risks. Or you can take it at a very late stage of your life when your basics are in a way sorted. I chose the latter one. That's how it is. But there was, in terms of financials, you got to plan it right because and you got to plan it with the assumption that this will not work out.
Mhm.
So I planned it this way. Okay, fine. I'm getting into this thing. I'm assuming that it wouldn't produce any money for me. I'm producing it would be assuming it'd be absolute failure. What happens in that, and how do I make sure that my family
Mhm.
is looked after? So there was quite a bit of prep
Yes.
work on that.
But I think there are some practical steps. Anybody thinking, so number one, having that realistic approach that it may or may not work,
Yeah,
preparing your family, so your spouse and your children, they do play a critical role.
correct.
And finally, when you're defining the problem, you may not have all the answers, you may not know your exact product in the first go, but that's okay.
Yeah, okay, you got to be a bit irrational. You see, I think starting a startup or getting into this kind of a high risk situation is not 100% rational decision, because if you purely took a rational, so there has to be a certain gut element to it. You have to have the conviction
Mm,
that yeah, this will work,
mm,
because there is never a situation you will know everything.
yeah.
And Pakistan actually was a new market for me
Mm.
because I had lived in Pakistan for a long time.
What is GiftKarte, and describe the first 6 months when you started GiftKarte?
Okay, so I'll answer the second question first. My timing was impeccable, with a huge amount of sarcasm, I'm saying, guys. So I started off in January 2020, and the
March.
March we hit with COVID. So you take the office and you hire the people and you get the tech work started, and suddenly you have to close off the office and nobody's coming, but you have to pay. You have the expenses
Mm,
incurred. So the first 6 months were quite tough that way, because, and not because of anything to do with business, but purely because of COVID. It was such an unexpected and a fearful thing. So that the first 6 months were quite messy for me in that point in time. Gift card is um, essentially a platform that connects consumers, gift giver and gift receiver.
mm,
That's the concept. The whole idea behind it. You see, what is gifting? If you really, uh, you know, in a way, go deeper into the understanding. It's essentially, gifting is just transfer of value
mm,
and transfer of emotions. These are the two things
mm,
that make it a gift, right? And I thought that while transfer of value can happen through just paying cash somebody,
mm,
but it has no emotions attached to it,
mm,
and that is why you don't see everybody giving cash to each other.
mm,
How do you transfer emotions? How do you transfer value without value erosion? And how do you do it quickly? How do you do it efficiently
mm,
in a world which is getting more and more digital?
mm.
So that's the combination of gift card. You transfer value through gift cards, so basically to your gift receiver. You transfer emotions through. If I can show you some of the messages that are conveyed,
Yeah.
people, it is enormously emotional. You do through that, and you do it literally in seconds, and you shift the decision of gift to from a gift giver to a receiver. And that's why it is super convenient, gets done in 3 4 seconds, literally 3 4 steps within a minute. The gift choice of gift shifts to the gift receiver. He can go and buy whatever he want on our platform, across products, across brands, and that is it solves the problem of gift giver, it solves the problem of gift receiver, and that's the kind of magic
Mm.
to it.
And do you have, is it like a B2C, which means directly to consumer, or is it more, I'm from HR
Right.
background, right?
Okay.
So I
Yeah. Yeah.
always think, for companies, it's a great tool to recognize their
Right.
employees.
Right.
Who's your target market?
So my target market is both. I'm
Acha.
I'm focusing. I'm focused a lot on on B2B at this stage, which is
Which is corporate.
B2B2C, yeah,
Yes.
essentially. But again, my end user is always a consumer,
Hmm.
because we do business with a lot of corporates in the market, the who's who of the industry we do business with. They use us for employee rewards, they use for supplier distributor rewards. Some of our customers use us for customer rewards as well.
Hmm.
But in the end, it's always the individual, because they give it to their employees or
Correct.
distributors. So that's one segment of it. That's a bigger part of our business. But so is the consumer. So we directly sell to consumers as well, both outside Pakistan and in Pakistan. The pain point is a little more pronounced outside Pakistan. So we get orders from 30 odd countries, and within Pakistan, about 40 plus cities we cover through that. So both consumer gifting, which is what we call emotional gifting, personal gifting, that is a big component of it, as well as corporate rewards element, where you are trying to retain your employees or reward your
Hmm.
employees.
And do you have another arm? Because when we met last time, you said there is an evolution of GiftKarte Technologies. And
Right.
what is that?
Right. So that is what I mean, I would call it the backward integration,
Hmm.
basically. So basically, a lot of we launched a platform about a year and a quarter back, called Ignite, which basically provides that interactive business entirely with corporates, which is a people engagement platform. So the whole
Okay.
engagement and reward platform. So the idea is people get employees are able to interact with each other, because the problem in employee engagement or traditional HR processes of reward is year-end bonuses and stuff,
Ah.
which by the time a year is passed, nobody remembers who actually has done what and all that. It's
Hmm.
very so the idea of a platform where they are which is where there people are able to pat each other on the back, sometimes monetary or otherwise. So it's a very nice platform. It's implemented in bunch of corporates, and the result is that the reward element to it is some points which get accumulated and gets converted through our gift card original platform into gift cards. So instant appreciation, conversion into an instant gift card which can get used.
Yeah, because I believe one area, and whenever we ran employee engagement survey, people highlighted, leaders highlighted that they don't get recognition,
Right.
because obviously once a year recognition, a formal recognition is almost expected.
Correct.
So I believe something like that is always very helpful, because that means you can identify who needs to be recognized, and
Right.
then you sort of with smaller gestures,
Right.
you can make them feel very special.
And I'll just add to it that, because recognition is not always from higher up to
Ha.
lower up. So what our platform is, a lot of it is P2P or peer-to-peer recognition, which is phenomenal. And some companies we have registered, they have seen a massive change in the culture, because you see people from some other team appreciating what the guy's gone an extra mile and all that, as well as from higher up to lower up, and as well as cross department, cross boundaries, cross geographies. So and that creates a positive culture in a company.
So what did those early days look like for you and your team?
I think initially it was massively exciting. Okay,
Hmm.
really creating the product,
Hmm.
connecting with people,
Hmm.
going meeting. It was very hectic, and we were a very short team. We started off with 4 people, 2 partners. We hired 2 people, young people. We just went around and we literally did everything, right from making a cup of tea for ourselves to going to meeting with vendors, and to meeting with
Hmm.
clients, and all with the tech people. So we were 4 people who were basically running around doing everything. So it was very exciting. There were situations where we panicked.
Hmm.
They were very, very stressful as well. So we once we got up and we went live, and there were issues in terms
Hmm.
of technology. There were issues with payment gateways, and so a lot of those tech issues were unexpected, and they happened that create panic. Then in terms of once you started, in terms of trying to get our vendor partners on board, that was taking a lot more time than what we expected. It had a lot of obstacles.
Hmm.
So I think it was a mix of, and I say that entrepreneur's life initial years is basically sometimes you're on the hike. I've done the best thing in my life. I'm gonna, I'm the next Mark Zuckerberg or whatnot. and the very, by this is morning, by the time afternoon happened, you're saying, okay, why did I do all this, and was the biggest, this is stupid, and I should go back to corporate, I don't belong here. So I think it was a lot of roller coaster.
Yeah.
But
Is it better now?
yeah. I think we've passed that stage.
Found that
I think
stage.
we've passed that stage. Now it is, yeah. I haven't had that doom situation for a while now. So now
Yeah.
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, great.
The highs vary. Sometimes really high. Sometimes
Yeah.
not so much. But the low scenario doesn't happen often
Doesn't happen.
anymore.
Okay. And what are the plans for your company future?
I think we have Alhamdulillah, we are doing all right. We've grown quite a lot in the last 4 years, 5 years, but I think but we continue to expand. So our plans are to expand significantly both in the B2B space. Now we in the last 6 months we've started focusing a lot on the B2C space, and for that we are expanding within this market as well as outside Pakistan. So I think we are still in the early stages. I think we are just going into massive into expansion.
So this is our last round. It's called a rapid fire round. You've got
Okay,
to be really rapid.
okay,
I'm going to ask you questions, and
and I can't think too
you
much.
can't think too much,
Okay,
right? And they're very tough questions.
okay, that's tricky. Is
If
is
you're
there a prize at the end of it? I mean,
gift
something,
card,
Okay. Yeah, wrong question. Yeah.
you will reward
Yeah.
yourself.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
If your younger self at Standard Chartered met you today, would you be impressed or confused?
Impressed, definitely. I'll be and surprised, not confused. Yeah, definitely, because I'm very proud of what I've built, what we have built together. So yeah.
Okay. What is harder, managing your client's expectation or your tech team?
Oh, tech team. Oh my God, tech team. Alhamdulillah, I have a very, very good tech team
Yeah.
now, but it took me a while.
Yeah.
And tech people are very, very difficult to manage, both in terms of their edginess, but they're competent people.
Yeah.
They
This.
are yeah, tech team
Okay.
all the time. Yeah. Mhm.
Have you ever made a decision that cost you money but protected your value?
Oh, all the time. This is all the time. I operate.
Any example?
I operate in Pakistan, so you know the kind of no number of times. So without naming names, I'll give you examples. Salespeople going to the clients, and clients guy, one of the guys saying, "Okay, what is in it for me? If you do this, I'll get this thing done for you." And my team guys, I mean, poor guys. These guys
Yeah.
obviously are running after numbers, so they'll come and say, "Okay, why don't we do that?" And I'll say, that's the thing that I'm not going to do. I'll let the business go. So that has happened often. Similarly, the tax situation.
Yeah.
Again, won't name names,
Yeah.
won't be specific, but there have been situations, and I've actually said, I'd pay tax over the ground rather than doing anything
Yeah.
underhand. So yeah, this is, I mean, you're operating in Pakistan.
So
That's
it
part of the game.
happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What do you fear more, failure or success?
No, I do not fear failure at all, at all. That I think I wouldn't have jumped into it if I had a problem.
Absolutely.
In
Yeah.
fact, I got into it
Yeah.
knowing and expecting failure, so that I don't fear failure at all. So that's not the thing for me.
Okay. Now, last question. When your children or grandchildren, when they Google you, what would you like them to see? Saad as a banker, Saad as an entrepreneur, or Saad as a great father and great grandfather?
Oh, that's a philosophical.
Question.
No, I'm very proud of my banking career. I think I had a moderately successful but very satisfying, very fun. I would say I traveled like crazy, so I'm very happy about. I don't think I can give a straight answer to it. To be
No.
honest, I would want them to see a great entrepreneur or so somebody or a builder or a developer who had a good exciting career in banking as well. So I think a bit of both. I would want my children and grandchildren to see somebody who has had a good life, good
Amazing.
good productive life.
Excellent. Final question.
Oh, I thought that was the final
That was a
question.
fine, but then I thought of another one,
Okay,
even
okay,
more trickier.
okay.
So between GiftKarte and your
And
and your children
oh,
and wife, rank them.
Oh my God! No, no, no. This is
Wrong
straightforward,
question, no?
completely, because it has no. I can't give any other answer. No, of course, my children,
Of course.
of course, and of course, my wife.
Of
Okay,
course.
um, and my gift card. But no, I mean, I love my company too with a passion.
Okay. Yeah,
I,
that's
I
why I asked
I
because I
am
know you. I know you're
absolutely in
very
love with
passionate, and
passion,
yeah,
and it's not about money. It's not about anything else. But I think something that I've built, something that I'm very proud of, something, and to be honest, something which is actually impacts people
yeah.
positively, because you will be surprised the kind of the way people convey the emotions, the kind of happiness it is shared with people. I'm very proud of that.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining, Saad. It
Thank
was
you
wonderful.
for having me over. Great to
Yeah.
have a chat with you.